Hi students, today's topics of discussion is exception handling. I have already covered this topic in your class, but as in our today's lab class we will do programming on this exception handling. So I think it would be better if I revise this topic. Okay, so exception is an abnormal condition that arises in your code sequence at runtime. That means if you do any mistakes while writing your program, then it is normally the syntax error or the semantical error. So it is during the compile time, it shows you when you correct it, then you run. But if you have some problems with the logics, okay, so internal some logical error occurs, then it will show you during the runtime, not in the compile time. So a Java exception is an object that describes an exceptional condition that has occurred in a piece of code. So if these things happens to your codes, so objects will be created. That's kind of exceptions occur. According to that exception, an object will be created, and that object will be thrown to the method where the exception arises. Okay, then that exceptions will be caught by some other block of code that will handle it and somehow remove the exception and makes let's see that your programs runs further. Okay, so examples of an exception, you can see you are having these main methods over here. Here you are trying to divide 4 with a 0, so it's obviously giving you a infinity result. So that is not a problem with the code, it's a problem with the logic. So it is an example of the exceptions. So there is a throwable class. Throwable class is a super class of all error exceptions in Java, and there are two subclasses, errors and exceptions, and that are used to indicate that exceptional situations have occurred. These instances are created, but these instances of these subclasses are created as you have just learned that when an exceptions occur, one object of that exceptions will be created, and it will be thrown somehow to the method where the exception arises. Then it will be handled properly. So these exceptions of error and exceptions are two subclasses of the superclass, which are actually the mother class of all error and exceptions. Here that error that instance will be handled properly, and these instances are created in the context of situational situation to include relevant information. So what kind of errors actually or exceptions occurs, you need to must have that informations, no, that objects contains those informations. Some common predefined exceptions are that is already predefined in Java are arithmetic exceptions. Like if you, for example, if you want to divide one number with a 0, so it will give you infinity result. Then array index out of bounds. Array index out of bounds is the index is either negative or greater than or equal to the size of the array. Class not found, exception. These exceptions rise when we try to access a class whose definition is not found. File not found means obviously exception is raised when a file is not accessible or doesn't open. Okay. Some other common errors are suppose you are trying to store value into an array of an uncompatible class or type. Okay, you are passing a parameter that is not in a valid range. Those are the exceptions. Basically, they are not syntactical errors. You know what actually what occurs during the writing of the code, but they actually the logical errors. Then attempting to use a negative size of an array using null object reference as a legitimate object reference, because null points to nothing, so we cannot make it a legitimate object reference. Then converting an invalid string to a number, accessing a character that is out of bounds of a string. Okay, so these are the examples of exceptions. They are not syntactical errors. So an exception is an event that occurs during the execution of a program that disrupts the normal flow of instructions. Okay, so as soon as these exceptions occur, it must be handled properly so that our program continues to run further. Unexpected events, that is an example of exception also, at the end of a file or erroneous event. Okay, that is subscript out of bounds. So as I told you, when an exception occurs, the method currently executing creates an exception object. You have to remember this one. When an exception occurs and that method currently executing creates an exception object and passes it to the runtime system serial, which looks for a special block of code. Here it's a catch block called an exception handler. This catch block itself is a exception handler. If the exceptions occur, it must have to be handled. So this exception handler does that, and that deals with the exception. A method throws an exception. When the exceptions occur, it basically happens in the we contain that code where that exception can occur within the try block. Then the object will be this exception occur object will be created, and that object will be obviously thrown to that catch block that is actually exception handler. It will handle that in some way that we have told it to do, and then the exceptional an exception handler catches that exception and it handles it properly. So we normally have 5 reserved keywords there: try, catch, throws, and finally. We use these 5 keywords to handle the exceptions. To catch it, to handle it, to throw it. Try is the block that contains set of statements where an exception occurs. So you must have the idea that that part of my code is going to generate some kind of exception. If this scenario occurs or these situations happens over there, then this kind of exception can occur. So we must contain that part of the code into the try block. And if the exception occurs, that will be obviously thrown to some block that will handle it. Then catch is that block. A try block is always followed by a catch block. Catch block must be after the try block, just after the try block, which handles the exception and occurs in associated type blocks. That occurs in associated type blocks. Then the throw keyword that is used to transfer control from the try block to catch. So exceptions occur, it then needs to be sent to the block that can handle it. We use the throw keyword to do that. Throws actually is a keyword. There is a little bit difference between this throw and throws. Throws keyword is used for exception handling without try and catch block. Suppose my method is not having any exception handler, but that situation arises over there, the exceptional situations, then it specifies the exceptions that the method can throw to the caller and does not handle itself. The method which calls this method, suppose somewhere it is happened, that exceptions occurs and it cannot handle it, then actually the caller method will handle it. Okay. Then finally it is executed after catch block. We basically use to put some common code whether exception occurs or doesn't occur. That finally block will always be executed. So here is an example. You can see that employee test. Here we have this employee age method. Integer age is passing as a parameter, and see you can see the use of throws keyword. Here the throws keyword is user defined. This is my own exceptions, the user defined exceptions. This employee method doesn't contain any exception handler, but here as we pass the integer value, then that is age. If the age become negative, obviously this is going to throw an exceptions. So that employee age is the method where this my own exception kind of exception can occur, and if it occurs over there, then it will be thrown properly. This throws, we use this throws keyword because it will be handled accordingly by the caller method, which will call the employee age method. So here inside the employees you can see if age is less than 0, then throw new my own exception. So a new object of that particular exception will be created and it will be thrown. Where it will be thrown? It will be not thrown exactly, it will be handled to the caller method. Okay, so that will print age cannot be less than 0. So throws keyword we are using here to mention that will be handled into the caller method. Then we are using the throw keyword. That keyword will help to transfer the exception from try to catch. So inside this main method, we are having our try block. In try block, we can see we are having our method employee age where is the age -2. So it's obviously less than 0. So that means this exception is going to occur, and that one object is being created, and that object will be shown to the catch block like this, and it will be handled. It will be handled with this print stack stress methods is a method of throwable class which will actually print the details of the sections. That means where the line number, the type of error, etc. So it's going to print age cannot be less than 0. So try block, catch blocks are implemented in this way. Throw and throws also used in this way. What is the advantage of the reception handling? Code that handles error and unusual events can be separated from the normal code, so it can be handled properly. In C, you can see that you don't have this kind of facility. So if something occurs like that, your program actually crashes, or it's actually terminates. But here, if something arises like this in your code, you can solve the problem so that your program can continue to run. Then errors automatically propagate after calling chain until they are handled. So just you see, they will be, they must have to be handled. They are, if the method doesn't, where the exceptions occurs, it doesn't have any exception handler, so the caller method will be contacted immediately. Until and unless it doesn't find any kind of exception handling, it continue to do that. Errors and special conditions can be classified and grouped according to common properties. Okay. So there are two types of exceptions. One is the checked exception, another is the unchecked exceptions. For the checked exception, you must always have the try and catch block. Class exception, programmers may not ignore this exception. Class exception and all its subclasses, except runtime exception and its subclasses, are under the checked exceptions, and it's a compile time exception. And runtime exception and its subclasses are the runtime exceptions. So checked exceptions are compile time exceptions, and it always needs to be handled by the programmer. Must be handled. So the point is must be handled by an exception handler using catch. So to handle the checked exceptions, you always need a try and the catch blocks. And the second point, or must be handled using throws clause in the method header. So if it doesn't, my method doesn't have any try catch block, so that will be handled into the caller method. In either way, we must have to handle the exceptions over here for the check exception that is going to occur in my code. So compiler verifies that each method only throws those check exceptions that it declares will throw. Checks are the exceptions that are checked at compile time. If some code within a method throws a checked exception, then the method must either handle the exception or it must specify exception using throws keyword. For example, if you use file reader class in a program to read data from a file, if the file specified in its constructor doesn't exist, then a file not found exceptions occurs, and the compiler prompts the programmer to handle the exception. Then come the unchecked exceptions. Here, usually the programmer errors need not be specified in a shows clause in a header of a method, need not be caught, although they may. Can occur anywhere in a program. Class runtime exceptions and its subclasses are under the unchecked exceptions, and class error and its subclasses also comes under the unchecked exceptions. So an unchecked exception is an exception that occurs at the time of executions. There are also called runtime exceptions. Okay. So you don't confuse. Checked are compile time and these are unchecked are runtime. Runtime and all its subclasses comes under the unchecked exceptions. These include programming bugs such as logic errors. Runtime exceptions are ignored at the time of compilations. For example, if you have declared an array of size 5 in your program and trying to call the 6th element of an array, so array index out of bounds exceptions obviously occurs. Here you can see this unchecked demo is the class where we are having the main method. Here our array is 1, 2, 3, 4, only 4 elements. It's trying to access the fifth element. So here, though here we do not have any try catch block or anything else, in spite of that, it is giving me that unchecked array index out of bound exceptions occurs. Okay, line 5. So this is unchecked exceptions. So catch exceptions includes code may raise exceptions in the try block followed by a catch block. There can be more than one catch blocks, but try block always follows this. So catch block is always after the try block. Okay, then there can be more than two catch blocks. Okay, finally block will always come after the catch block. Okay, so it always executes the code you write inside the finally block always executes. So whether their exceptions occurs or not, it always executes. A try block must have at least one catch block or a finally block. Okay, a try block must have at least one catch block or a finally block. So obviously, if the exceptions occur, then it needs to be handled properly. That is why. Consequence is that when an exception is raised, the runtime system probes backwards in the calling chain of method until it finds the handler and on the catch block that responds to thrown exceptions. If none is found, the system reports the exception at the top level and terminates the program. Okay. Then, if the exception, and if it doesn't find any exception handler, so obviously that it will terminate the program. But if and when an exception is caught, control continues with the code immediately. That means if it finds any exception handler, then it will be handled and the code will continue to run. Here is also an example that public static void main. Inside that we have try block where this int num is an integer which is trying to contain the value when we divide 121 with a 0. So it's an infinity, obviously the exceptions occurs. Then we are having this catch method. So it's an arithmetic exceptions. Here you need not to have your own exception. Here arithmetic exceptions is already predefined exceptions in your Java. So we are creating one object of that arithmetic exceptions E, so that here the exceptions occurs and if the control transfer from the try block to catch block, and so catch block is having one object. Catch block can have one object of the exception of type arithmetic exception. So in catch block it can be handled, because in try block one exception or exception object of this arithmetic exception class has been created and it is thrown properly to the arithmetic catch block. So it can catch it and it can handle it. Here it will be printed system.out.println number should not be divided by 0. Okay, so if the exception occur during the try block, immediately it will start to search some, if there is some catch block which can take one argument or parameter, whatever you say, of that kind of exceptions. So in catch block we can see that is the arithmetic exceptions and that the object is E. So immediately the control will be transferred from the try block to the catch block and it will be printed that number shouldn't be divided by 0. Then we are having this finally block. So whether your exceptions occurs or it doesn't occur, it always will be executed. So first this line will be printed, number shouldn't be divided by 0. Then the finally block, we can see this is the finally block, this line will also be printed, and after that you are having out of try catch finally, this line will also be printed. But as the error or the exceptions occurred in the num value, num is the parameter that is containing the value when we divided it with 0, so that system.out.println num will not be printed, num value will not be printed, but these other three lines inside the catch block, finally block, and out of the finally block, that is, and these three lines will be printed. So here is your output. So now you are having few MCQs. Okay, you can go to the comment section and write the answer along with your roll number so that I know that you have actually followed the slides, okay, and comfortable with it. There are total 5 MCQs, okay. You can see and you can answer them in the comment section, okay, and that will be related to your attendance also. So do it properly, okay. Bye for now, we'll meet soon.